Okay, good afternoon again, everyone. My name is Patrice. Again, thank you all so much for joining today's call. I am the outreach coordinator with Network 14, also known as ESRD Network of Texas. I would like to again thank each of you for taking a moment out of your time to join today's webinar. I just want to go over a few things with you. As we begin, just please keep in mind to mute your lines, and we will use the chat to answer any questions that you may have. And also just keep in mind that as we're going through today's presentation, you may hear me repeatedly go over a few things that may sound familiar to those of you who have been involved in PFE before, but we just want to highlight a few things for you. So again, we are going to discuss our 2020 patient engagement activities. Now, I want to let you all know that notifications were sent out on January 15th to all of the contacts that we had on our master list. I understand that there have been some changes at a few facilities recently, and so we may not have the correct information. If you receive this information from your facility manager or your administrator or your clinical manager, and you will be overseeing this particular project, please let me know, and I will update you as the primary person or list you as secondary. I am not going to collect, who's your DO or your regional person, things of that nature. I just want to specifically know who I will be conversing with throughout this particular activity. There was a pre-project survey that is due tomorrow. I know some of this is new to many of you as I've been kind of corresponding back and forth with some emails or phone calls. So, of course, I will extend this time frame just a little. This particular survey is specifically getting baseline information on your facility. So I would like to know where we are starting with your particular facility, and as we are going throughout this contract year with your quality activity projects, I'm able to see progress that's been made. So we're definitely just going to look at an overview of everything throughout this year. I want you all to know that this is not per se a project. This is just simply an activity that you all are doing already, but with our CMS contract, of course, we do have to report certain data. And as you can see, the network had to select a certain percentage of our entire network. We have a very large network, and with patient and family engagement, they required us to select 30% of that participating dialysis facilities. So you might be participating in your home/transplant project, hospitalization, or your infection detection. And so we want you to know that that is your QIA project. You are simply going to incorporate patient engagement, as you should already be doing so, into your project, which I know that many of you are doing. Now, the only additional step that you're doing is just simply telling me what type of patient engagement you are doing. As you can see, there are three major components CMS wants us to address: your support groups, and that means that you are either developing a support group or you are trying to connect a patient who, especially a patient that needs some additional peer-to-peer support. You are connecting them with a support group in your area or maybe one that's online. Any type of methods that you're using, we need to be able to speak to that. And so during this project, you're going to hear me speak a little bit more about your patient support group. Now, the patients that are on our PAC committee, which is our patient advisory committee, we thought, sometimes the word support group can leave a negative connotation, if you will. So we decided maybe we could just rebrand it to say your patient information exchange, also known as PI. And also we could look at different methods of offering support groups at your facility. So I don't know if some of your facilities are equipped to have a WebEx such as this one where they may dial in. Now, it's not going to be a video conference if it's something that you all are not comfortable with, but overall a conference line where people can call in. They are anonymous for those who really are not comfortable with sharing a lot of their personal concerns yet need someone to speak with. That's an option. And so as we're going to continue on through this project, we're going to just present other options and ideas for you. We are very much aware that there are many patients who simply are not interested in a support group. Now, what does this mean and who is actually going to oversee the support group if you did have a conference line? It would be your facility. So if you have that capability, that is terrific. If you have a sister facility that might have a support group and they're just a few miles away and you all collaborate with one another, that's something that you can discuss if that's within your policy to do so. We're just looking for ways to, again, connect patients and or new patients to some sort of counseling or other areas that will assist them in addressing their needs. The other component is QAPI. Along the same concept is for those patients who you know are very involved, such as your FPRs, please invite them to QAPI, and not just invite them, but CMS this year would like to know how many actually participated in the QAPI meetings, at least for the first 15 minutes, because we do understand that patients, family members, and caregivers cannot stay during the entire QAPI process, but we are looking at how are you incorporating patients, family members, and caregivers to participate in your QAPI meeting so that they have that opportunity to address a lot of those patient needs. And the final one is your plan of care. We all are aware that every patient has a plan of care. Some facilities are doing an excellent job with meeting with their patients more than once a year to discuss their plan of care, especially when there are needs that arise throughout that time frame, if you will. So there are patients that we've spoken with, and many patients do not know what a plan of care is. They, in their words, would say, they gave me a piece of paper to sign that had some information on it, and that's all I know. And we did it chairside. So this is demonstrating that you are at least offering to have them more involved in an individualized plan of care meeting, giving them the opportunity to have a private one-on-one. There are some patients that have called, such as our patient services department, that have personal concerns, but yet they are not aware that they actually can speak with you all regarding those concerns and have goals that they want to actually achieve, and that can be embedded on their plan of care. So it's taking more effort in developing a plan of care and making it very individualized and personal. Those are things that we are going to look at throughout this particular year, and how many patients actually wanted to have that one-on-one plan of care meeting. So we're going to assist you as much as possible to address all of those particular components and just really heighten the focus on patients and it being family-centered care. And so if there are going to be some challenges that you all experience, please let us know what those challenges are. Many of them, we are aware of them. There are patients that are very content with how things are. They are content with not participating in a support group. They are okay with not having a private one-on-one plan of care meeting. But there are a huge population of patients that we're kind of missing, if you will, on making sure that they are aware of all of these options in addressing their health care needs. So I spoke to you a little bit about your support group and PI. One thing that we thought about, if you choose to have a conference line, maybe having it on every fourth Friday, something that's consistent, a designated date and time. And that way, patients know to look forward to that particular meeting. Again, you can continue to host a patient support group on site if your facility does have one. You also could look at other alternatives, as I mentioned, a conference line or a WebEx, or also just trying to find other local support groups. So we are currently going to work on the branding. That's one thing our patient advisory committee is doing, is creating something that they believe patients would enjoy, something that they know will capture their attention to also help your facilities in branding the pie, and also just encouraging them to speak with someone, whomever that person might be or persons may be. We have not set a certain date and time to launch this particular pie, but again, that is something that we are going to continue to talk to you all about. Now, staying with the QAPI, defining QAPI for patients and what that means, how they could benefit from it, that is extremely important. Many of them do not know. There are a few facility patient representatives that are involved at your facility, and they know about QAPI, they know lobby days, they know everything. They are very, very much involved in being a patient advocate. And so we want to make sure that many patients are aware of what is a QAPI meeting, how are they being notified of the QAPI meetings, and are you all inviting consistently the FPRs to join the meeting? And if so, how often? Are you making those announcements, or are you just kind of wanting to post it on a notification board where they see it before they walk into the treatment area? How are you notifying them? And I know these are specific things that you guys are probably like, "Oh, we do all of that," but they still don't want to come, and we understand that. All we're doing is just making sure that we convey that message to CMS so that they understand these efforts are being made. This is what we are hearing. This is what we're seeing. And these are the efforts that they're making, because we know that you guys are doing it. We just want to make sure that everything that you're doing is, it goes noticed, if you will. So, and again, that's like the little 15 minutes, or less to involve them in that. Just give them a roadmap on patient topics, what they are going to be discussing during that 15 minutes. Give them an idea what will be discussed, what will not be discussed, so that they have a better understanding on how that particular meeting will flow. And again, you can also try to provide a facility conference number to monitor. I know sometimes your MD might have to join via conference, or other participants may join during a conference line, and seeing if that's something that you all could extend to a patient as well. With our plan of care, I spoke to moments ago, again, you guys are doing a phenomenal job. I don't know if many of the facilities provide a checklist for patients prior to their scheduled plan of care, so that they can make a note on questions that they may have, goals, things of that nature. This particular example on the presentation is one that we developed a couple of years ago, and it is still available. It's just a little template, if you will, to kind of give them a guide on what to ask prior to their meeting as well as post. And that may also be something that is of interest to you. Other facilities, you guys have your own templates and guidelines, and we're going to continue to encourage you to use those things. We're just, once again, trying to find methods where patients are aware this is not just a piece of paper that they're signing that says their overall health care stats and all the other information, but it's an opportunity to offer them that private one-on-one and to discuss their personal matters. And when those personal matters arise, that you all have that notated, and not just give them a piece of paper, as they quote-unquote call it, where it has everyone's signature on it, or no one's signature on it but theirs, to offer them a completely signed plan of care. This is not something that's new to everyone. This is based on many phone calls that we've received, concerns with patients have voiced that they have no idea what their healthcare team is doing, and it doesn't seem that they don't care as much. And then we also get those calls that says my healthcare team is amazing, they're awesome. I have no concerns about it. I just want to let you all know that they're doing a really good job. So I don't want you to all feel that also if they call the network that it's all about some of the things that are not being done, but we also get those great reports as well. So I know that you all are doing it. I really do. I have spoken with many of you last year and the years before. And one thing that you've noticed that I love to do is highlight those best practices. And I've spoken with many facilities about it, and they are doing a terrific job. And I try to partner you all up with those who may need a few more ideas. And so what I am going to try and do this year is combine all of your best practices into a presentation so that that may be something that you all will like to refer back to at a later time and date on how to get your patients involved more and how to speak with them in reference to fluid control and all of the other things that may arise during their overall treatment plan. So a couple of things that patients have spoken to me about that they will love more information on. How do you address food cravings in their diet? You all have dietitians there and provide this information, I'm sure, monthly. Some facilities, yes, they receive it. Some, not so much. And then we also know that a lot of times the handouts might end up on the floor or in the trash can, or they may say, oh, okay, here's another piece of paper. You know, what does quality of care mean, disaster planning, bed bugs travel? What we decided to do is put a lot of these topics into a newsletter format, and that's electronic. And I will speak to that momentarily, but I just want to kind of give you guys a quick glimpse of some of the things that patients are still wanting more information on and probably going more in depth as to many of those particular topics. And, of course, we're still having an issue with bed bugs. We are working on additional resources for that specific topic as well. And so more recently, we had a flyer that have resources on it, and we are going to just kind of provide more information, a little more, as I mentioned, go more in depth on resources and what to do in reference to bed bugs. So we're wrapping up our meeting, but I want to kind of, again, highlight quality improvement activities. These are your quality improvement activities, and those are your contact leads and their telephone number as well as their email address. This slide presentation will be available, and it will be recorded as well and also made available on our website. So you can certainly take a screenshot if you would like. Infection detection, Miriam Alaboud. Home transplant is Danny and Chia. And hospitalization is also Danny and Chia. And so we will notify you of any changes to any of those particular leads. And also, this is not a QIA project. So I want you all to just kind of hopefully be at ease in knowing that you don't have to report a lot of data to me. It's really the same information that you saw in your pre-project survey. But at the bottom, there is a link for you to attach pictures. There's a link for you to attach documents. Just please do not include PHI. Do not include patient's face. If patients are wearing a specific T-shirt that you might have designed, just give me the T-shirt, and that's it, just a picture of the T-shirt. If, they say, oh, I want to be in the picture, I would encourage to make sure that you have your release signed. Before you send the picture to me, if you want to put a little happy face over that patient's face and then send it to me or block it out or whatever, just make sure that you all get their permission prior to taking a picture of them and sending it, especially via email, because email is not secured unless you are sending it to me in a secured email. But I love when you all send pictures. You will see pictures as part of the best practice. I've shared that information with CMS last year as well as the year before. And I must tell you, they were excited to see how unique you all were with the home project and with BSI and transplant and just trying to get patients more actively involved in their different modalities as well as their overall health care. So with this patient engagement, just incorporate PFE into whichever project you are on. Many of you should not be in more than 2 projects. We tried really, really hard to ensure that you are in just one project. Home and transplant is considered one project. Danny married those 2 modalities together to just one project. So whatever patient engagement you are doing, just I hope you are able to include that into one of your projects. So it's kind of addressing both with one situation, which is just your specific QIA. If you do not recall which QIA you're in, I believe we have that information up on our website under the Quality Improvement tab. You will find that in the bottom right corner. When you log on to our home page, you will see that all of that information, and it will give you a link to each QIA project. We are adding more information to the website as we continue to develop the project throughout this year. Miriam, if you are on infection detection, you've probably gotten a wealth of information right now with surveys and things that she has been required to collect from you all. Everything has been developed in Smartsheet. We did receive a lot of concerns about SurveyMonkey and in not capturing all of your information, or it wasn't saving it properly, and so we've transitioned over to Smartsheet, which is a completely different platform, and it allows us to add a lot of content, videos, documents, things of that nature. So you will be able to have all of that at your fingertips through each project, as well as patient engagement has one. And so that link is also on our website. And you all are encouraged to highlight your best practices. You don't have to, but I, again, love to showcase that to CMS. And I also want to help other facilities that need additional support and what to do, because you all, I commend each and every one of you. You have a job that requires you to wear many hats, and I don't want that to go unnoticed, that you're doing the effort to be as actively involved in your patients' health care. Many of you go above and beyond. And so this year, I spoke to our team, and I really want to reward all of you that are doing an excellent job. And so look forward to something in the future with that, because everything that you do is so important. It truly is so important. I don't want you all to feel that we are here just to monitor everything you're doing, but yet to partner with you and to support you as much as possible. And also know that we do understand that each of your facilities have your own unique guidelines, your own policies and procedures that you have to adhere to. And we do speak with your leadership as well regarding what CMS requires and what that looks like, our projects, and all of the things that we are expected to do and anticipating on going through this year with you all. So at any given point, if you have any concerns or questions, please let me know. Danny, Miriam, and Nisha, she's our Patient Services Director, and also Mary, she's our Executive Director. Any of us are available, whether it is via email or phone call. You certainly can contact us about your concerns or questions. If a link is not correct or broken, please let us know. So in wrapping up, I want to let you all know again, I sent out a notice reference to our electronic newsletter. We decided to transition to the electronic newsletter to kind of join the 21st century, if you will, you know, everyone has the opportunity to read the newsletters, and it allows us to put more information on the newsletters. It allows us to speak to our quality improvement activities, things of that nature. So we did send out a notification on how you can subscribe. This is not just facilities, but patients are also able to subscribe as well. What I would like to ask is to please make sure that you notate your email in the proper space. I saw a few, and I unfortunately have no way of determining how to contact them because the form was not filled out correctly. So if you could just please be mindful of the information is just simple, your first name, last name, email address, and you can check a box if you are at a dialysis facility. And that box is just a drop down where you can select your facility. And this is expected to launch this spring. We will still have our patients, patient story, if you will, where we highlight a patient and they kind of have the opportunity to tell others about their journey. And we're going to continue to speak to the ESRD, NCC material that you all will receive. We also will speak to grievances and other topics. And those topics, as I've mentioned before, chemistry, how binders work, the diet, disaster preparedness, skin care, quality of care, vitamin D. Those are just some of the topics that I have received from patients. These specific topics came from our newsletter surveys as well as phone calls and meeting one-on-one with patients. So they will love more information about this and not just on the surface, but just speaking more into their binders and why they have to take certain binders and what the binders are doing for them and what happens if they skip a binder. Also skin care, as dialysis patients undergo different concerns with dryness of their skin. Some have reported that, their skin is irritated. And so just different things that we can kind of speak to. So what I would like to do, because I have concluded our chat, as you all know, again, I like to be very mindful of your time. I want to open it up for questions, so please use your chat box and ask any questions. And for those who might be on the phone, I am going to unmute the line towards the end. For those who are not speaking, I do ask that you just continue to remain on mute, and hopefully we'll be able to address any questions or concerns. So the chat is open, and I will go ahead and unmute the line. So do we have any questions? Does anyone have questions? All lines are unmuted. Looks like, okay, so it looks like I have a lot of background noise, so I'm going to mute the lines again. One moment. I do have a question in the chat. Can we get a copy of the slides? Absolutely. A copy of the slides will be available along with a recording of our presentation so that those who are unable to attend this meeting, they will be able to review this at a later time. And I have another question. How do you feel about social media platforms for meeting with needs and patient engagement, such as Facebook, an example? There are, David, a lot of platforms that are great. Actually, NKF has one, and I think AAP has a platform, and there are many also that are available. And actually, David, what I would like to do, if it is okay with you, I would love for you to kind of share your best practice on some of the things that we spoke to as well. So if you can kind of speak to us about 5 minutes. Everyone, David has a phenomenal concept on what he is doing to address misappointments, fluid control, and also speaking to patients about home modality. So, David, I am going to unmute your line for a moment, And if you could just kind of speak to that a little bit, I would greatly appreciate that. Can you hear me, David?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, okay. As far as home therapy goes, what we basically did was we added questions to the interdisciplinary assessments of the social worker, dietitian, and RN. And we basically customized it for our facility. And we added questions, no more than 3 or 4, simple questions that encouraged conversation with the patient. So, for example, the social worker created questions in their interdisciplinary assessment that focused around independence. And the dietitian created questions that focused around how diet often gets freed up with home therapy. And the RN focused on a number of different things, like the freedom to, or just basically informing about all the different types of modalities that are available. And we did that in as part of the ESRD network last year, the project that focused on increasing home therapy referrals. And by including those questions into the interdisciplinary assessments, we guaranteed that every in-center patient had the opportunity to talk in depth with 3 of our most qualified individuals about home therapy modalities. And we were able to guarantee that every patient got to do it, and we did it every single year. So it was a simple adjustment to something that you already do with every patient every year.
Great. And can you briefly speak to us about your concept on missed appointments? I know that often is a conversation topic with many facilities having difficulty with patients keeping their appointments. So could you take like a couple of minutes to speak to what you're doing to decrease your rates of missed appointments?
Oh yes, when I first started this clinic almost 5 years ago, our mistreatment rate was almost at 20%. And when I say mistreatment rate, I mean no-shows and hospitalization. So we were losing 1 in 5 treatments to one of those 2 things. Either a patient didn't show or they were in the hospital. So either way, we want to avoid both. I mean, I don't want patients in the hospital. We want them in our chair getting their treatment so that we can take care of them, because we feel we take care of them better than anyone. And if we're doing our jobs and taking good care of them, then they're enjoying their lives and living it to the best of their ability until eventually we can get them a transplant, for example. That's basically our end goal. And that's really all of our end goals. But so how do we address mistreatments when we feel like really we're kind of powerless against the patient's behavior? They can kind of do what they want, and we're more responsible for them than they are. Well, what we did is we formed a mistreatment committee. On that mistreatment committee is my social worker, my secretary, and I have a patient expert. In this case, it's my charge nurse. And we all meet every Monday and we review last week's treatment data. Our secretary keeps spreadsheets on mistreatments and treatments that are delivered, so it makes the meeting go rather quickly. You can design it as you see fit. And this process, I actually work for Fresenius, and this process is actually being looked at with Fresenius right now, and they plan to roll it out through corporate here in the next couple of weeks. And it's going to be available to everybody in Fresenius. But you can put something together yourself, just like I did. But we meet every week and we review the treatments. And if patients are developing or demonstrating a mistreatment behavior, then we give them a letter of concern. And we sit down with the patient one-on-one, and we basically try and find out the root cause of that. And we have our social worker do that. We feel that is the person who is best equipped to address a mistreatment because there could be things like financial, transportation, family issues, and our social worker is the most qualified individual to handle those questions. So we deliver that letter of concern. We try to address this behavior. We're hoping we can discover a root cause, and in most cases we do. But if the behavior continues, we give them a second letter, and we try the same thing. We give the patient the opportunity to try and resolve this behavior. But by the third attempt, if the patient demonstrates that they're going to continue this behavior, they're not going to change their ways, then we make arrangements for the patient to be moved to a little later in the day where their mistreatment behavior doesn't impact our ability to be efficient in our day. So this has been highly successful, and we have gone from losing almost 20% of our treatments to down to just a little over 3%.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, David. I felt that that was some really valuable information to kind of help many of the facilities that have reached those same barriers as well. And so I thank you so much for taking a brief moment to speak to that, and hopefully that information was helpful to many of you on today's call. So thank you so much, David, for that.
Sure.
I do have a few other questions that have come through the chat, and then if there are no further questions after these few, we can certainly dismiss today's call. One of you wanted to know how to access QAPI forms for patients. Your QAPI forms would be with your facility. We don't have specific QAPI forms that you use during your QAPI meeting, so I would speak with leadership in reference to that. But if you could send me an email, and we can speak a little bit more about your specific question. And we also have another question in reference to support groups. If you are in a rural area or if your facility does not have a support group, then you can kind of talk to your patients about, number one, how do they feel about support groups? And as I mentioned, we're rebranding it to patient information exchange because some people hear the word support group and think, there's nothing wrong, I don't need any support, what do you mean? But it's more of, would you like to talk to some peers about, what's going on or how you want to approach that situation? But first and foremost, you want to definitely assess where your patients are and some of the needs that you have identified. Many of those needs are you've seen some consistency that many patients have the same concerns, so you want to start there for sure. And also just find out if there are other facilities that have support groups in your area. If not, there are support groups, as I mentioned before, that are online and also over the phone, such as NKF, and I'll have that information. Is actually already on our PFE educational template that you can find online, but there are a few that you can kind of reach out to and see if that's something that your patients are comfortable with doing. And I also have other questions in reference to that, so hopefully that addressed the one in reference to not having a support group as well as the, being in a rural area. Meeting via phone, we actually launched that concept with CMS along with our board, and they actually like the idea because oftentimes patients have already left your facility and they do not want to return back to the facility for a meeting. And also there are times where your meetings may be on a day that is not the same treatment day as your patient. So as far as it being via phone, that's what we were referring to as your conference line. And you want to, again, speak with your leadership about that and making sure that there's no conflict with your particular policies and procedures, and if there needs to be a HIPAA, confidential waiver signed or any type of PHI issue there. There shouldn't be, because during your QAPI, you're not mentioning any names or faces, things like that, during the segment that you have patients present. So again, everything you're going to speak with your leadership about, we have spoken with CMS, and they do not have any concerns with having a conference phone call with your QAPI, nor with your support groups. As far as feedback and inviting patients to QAPI, you can invite as many patients as you want, but, you know, we're also looking at how many patients attend. Typically, most people invite 1 to 2, a patient and maybe their family member or just your FPR. It just varies on that specific facility on how many you want to invite. But we also are, again, looking at how many actually participate in QAPI. Okay, and oh, thank you so much for answering the question, David. We have one in reference to how many patients are at his facility. And if you guys want to speak with David more or have questions, you can certainly email me, and if he has availability, hopefully we can connect you two together, because he has some phenomenal ideas, and I was just quite impressed with everything that he shared with me. So definitely looking forward to all of you and everything that you are going to do this year. So if you have any concerns about your specific QIA and not being able to gather information or having problems with the link, I will notify the leads. They are here today, and so I will speak with them as we conclude today's call and let them know that there is some concerns with the link, or you can certainly, again, send them an email or a phone call and let them know that there are concerns. And we have a couple of more questions, guys, so thank you so much for your time. Okay, someone made a suggestion on actually creating a few links online in reference to like QAPI, and I would love that idea. Unfortunately, it's out of our control and our hands, but maybe that's something that we can certainly suggest to CMS for the future, because again, we try to continuously save patients over paperwork, and we're looking for new innovative ideas to go ahead and decrease how much work that you all are doing. So if there are no further questions, guys, I just want to, again, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me, and thank you so much for joining today's call. I will make our call available online as well as this presentation. You can always give me a call. My colleague is Anisha Smith. Her telephone number is listed as well as mine. And if you have any concerns, please let us know. We are here to support you as best as we possibly can. And just know we understand your frustration with the projects. We understand that there's a lot of work that you're already doing, and yet we're still wanting to try and ease as much of the burdens for those who may feel, burdened with all of the tasks that we are asked to do. But we want to make sure that we provide all the information with CMS. And so I want to, again, thank you all for taking the time out of your day to speak with me, and I wish you all a wonderful afternoon. This will not have a attestation form. I have taken attendance for those of you who have registered for the call, so your registration and everything that WebEx has collected during the length of this call will be your attestation for today's presentation. So I thank you all so much, and I wish you all a pleasant afternoon. Thank you, everyone.